Hello and welcome. My name is Charlie Hamer. I'm one of the co-founders of Public Sector Network. And for those of you that don't know us, PSN is a global community platform that has been around for almost 10 years, operating across Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the US, and the UK. Our mission is to ultimately better connect government, industry, and academia to facilitate the sharing of ideas, best practice, networking, and benchmarking. Ultimately, our goal is to drive improvements in government services and achieve better outcomes for communities. We do this in a number of different ways and variety of avenues, events being one of them, ranging from intimate gatherings of 10 people up to large scale gatherings of thousands of participants. In addition to the events, we have our academy, which delivers both public courses, custom, in-house private training, as well as then our research and advisory division, which conducts research, develops insights into various different topics within the public sector, produces research briefs on those, and then shares them widely via the final part of our offering is our community platform that knits all of those offerings together to allow us space for continuous learning and engagement. So on to today, we're going to be talking data or data, depends where you're from, but I'm a data guy, so I'm going to go with data. So data, as we know, is at the heart of decision making in today's world. And for government professionals, having the ability to analyze, interpret, and present data is critical. Tools such as Power BI, Excel play an essential role in transforming raw data into actionable insights that can inform policy, improve service delivery, and drive better outcomes for citizens. Excel remains a powerful tool for managing large data sets, performing calculations and analyzing data, while Power BI helps to visualize and create dynamic interactive reports. Mastering these tools not only increases efficiency, but enables government teams to work smarter, using data to make more informed decisions. So investing in training for Excel and Power BI is not about empowering teams to harness, is about empowering teams to harness the full potential of data analytics. Whether it's performing complex analyses in Excel or creating real-time dashboards in Power BI, these tools are essential in today's public sector environment. So much more importantly, on to today, we're fortunate to have Nicky Bull, a corporate consultant at Blue Chameleon, who will share her insights on how Excel and Power BI can help transform the way government professionals approach data and decision making. So welcome, Nicky.
Hi, Charlie.
So let's just jump into it. So Nicky, let's start by discussing the importance of data analysis and reporting in today's public sector. Why is it so crucial for government professionals to have strong skills in Excel and Power BI, especially when it comes to data-driven decision making?
I think one of the big shifts in recent years has been towards data democratization. So this is where everyone in the organization now has direct access to the data they need.
Mhm.
And this is actually really exciting because when it comes to data decision driven, because nobody can say it, data driven decision making, we can now get informed answers to questions quickly without having to go through a hierarchy of IT professionals and data scientists. The thing about data democratization is it's not just good enough to give staff access to the data. We actually have to empower them to use that data effectively. They need the tools to manage the data, to extract useful intel from it, and two of the most accessible tools that we have to help people achieve this are Excel and Power BI.
Great, thank you. So you mentioned then obviously Excel, which is one of the tools that we're here to talk about today. So as we know, Excel's been one of the go-to tools for many years, particularly for data analysis and management. How do you see Excel's role evolving in today's data-rich environment, especially as organizations integrate more sophisticated tools like Power BI?
Yeah, and I mean, people do sort of come to me and say, "Oh, we're going to now replace Excel with Power BI."
Mm,
I don't see that happening at all. I think Excel is still going to have a significant role to play. It still allows for easy data entry and manipulation, and it's still the actual repository for a lot of the data we currently have. I think from a user point of view, it's quite easy to learn, and for our localized data sets, it's still an excellent data analysis tool. So I think it's still going to be used extensively at the team level. I think also what a lot of people underestimate is that Excel has matured substantially
mhm,
in the data analysis space. We've got new features now like dynamic arrays, Power Query, Power Pivot, and even Python integration. So
mhm.
it is becoming a very serious contender even in the data analysis space. And of course, it integrates seamlessly with Power BI. So it's not that we're going to be replacing Excel with Power BI, we're simply going to be getting the best of both.
Mm. Just a side question. How much do you think people actually use from Excel 10, 20, 30% of the tool? Is it, can you put a number on it? But I think it's probably in the smaller side.
I would say that probably it depends, because who's people. I would say that your sort of average user is probably not using more than 5%.
Wow.
And your power users probably don't even know about 50% that's out there.
Wow. Okay. Much more.
It's huge. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
a
huge.
lot more than I actually thought. So, so onto Power BI. So, as we mentioned, is it increasingly being adopted for creating visual, interactive reports? Why do you think Power BI has become such a critical tool for government teams looking to tell stories through data?
Yeah, and I think it comes back to this democratization. Power BI is a self-service business intelligence tool, so it is perfectly positioned to capitalize on this trend. First of all, it allows us to connect directly to the data from virtually any source, meaning developers are empowered to answer their stakeholder questions by providing reports that are up to date and accurate. No more data silos, which is actually important. Power BI has actually been designed with visualization in mind. So it provides a very feature-rich experience for creating engaging, interactive visual experiences. And I think finally, the Power BI service, where we actually publish our reports to, when people go and view the reports, that introduces a level of governance and security that we didn't have previously with Excel. And this is really important, particularly in the public sector, where we have to make sure that that data is properly secured.
Great, thank you. So looking at moving into some top tips really about these tools. So you've worked with many professionals in this area. What are some of your top tips or best practices for using Excel and Power BI effectively? How can people get started to take their skills to the next level?
Oh, okay, two different tools, but I'd say first of all, automate everything. Okay, the number of people who come on a training course and they go, I kind of do things the slow way. Yeah, of course we do. We figure out something, but we want to avoid doing it the slow manual way, because not only is it less efficient, so it's costing us time, but it introduces room for human error and it's going to introduce inaccuracies. So what we want is total automation and leading on from that as much accuracy as possible.
Yeah.
I'd say at the sort of individual level, be curious. Don't feel overwhelmed or frightened by the tools. They're there to help. Experiment. Click that button, see what it does. And don't limit your curiosity to the mechanics of the tool either. We need to start becoming curious about the data. We need to start asking curious questions. And I think that's going to help us get more out of the tools as well. And that's something that AI is not going to bring. That's still going to come from the human intelligence. And three, I'm going to state the obvious here, but invest. Invest time in learning the tools properly. I mean, obviously, I'm going to say that I'm a trainer, but I believe in my product. This is why I do what I do. We can't know what we don't know. The only way you're actually going to start getting the best use of some of these tools is to put the time into doing some training and then actually taking the time to invest in your own skill set, practice those skills.
I think practice is the important part. Just doing a training doesn't materialize into knowing a tool well. Completely agree. So to talk about Excel, what are some of the more advanced Excel features, such as pivot tables, complex formulas, or data modeling that can really help people get the most out of their data sets? I think you mentioned a few earlier.
Yeah, so actually, I think one of the most important tools is not even a very advanced one, but it's just an underrated one, and that is tables. So if you aren't currently using tables for your data sets, they revolutionize everything. They automate everything and they provide for good integration with tools like Power BI, and with Copilot coming in, no tables, no Copilot. So that would be one of the first things where you can get a massive win for very little effort. Pivot tables, which you mentioned, obviously really important because they allow us to do very accurate data analysis very quickly. They're actually very easy to use, and we can visualize them with pivot charts and then start kind of interacting with them using slices, which is a great little tool. Again, not hard, but one of those things people don't know about. I think the big new thing that I would encourage everybody to look into further is Power Query. This is a tool that basically allows us to fetch data. So it's not quite the same as import because it connects to the data source. And we can then actually use it to manipulate, transform, and clean that data in a way that we previously just couldn't do in Excel. And Power Query is not just in Excel, it's also in Power BI. So you're effectively learning two tools for the price of one. And I think those would be my three big go-tos.
Brilliant, brilliant advice. So onto Power BI. For Power BI users, similar question. What are your recommendations for creating impactful dashboards and reports that convey key insights quickly? Any advice on making the best out of Power BI's visual capabilities?
Yeah, and I think, and I'm definitely guilty of this. A lot of people start with the data. They've got, oh, I've got this lovely data. I
Mm.
must go and stick it in a chart or something. And I'm going to suggest that that's back to front.
Hmm.
For an impactful dashboard, we need to actually be answering stakeholder questions. So actually, I would say start with talking to stakeholders. Find out what questions they actually need answering. Then once you've got a better idea of what actually needs to go into the dashboard, spend some time planning. Um, the nice thing about our Power BI reports is we're not limited to a single page. We can use multiple pages. You can actually structure them in a way where you've got a nice high-level summary, and then people can drill down and see the intel that they need. And if they're well organized and logical, and they're answering questions people actually need, people are going, you're going to get that uptake. And with all that investment, you want to see that.
Mhm.
And then I think maybe a little bit more obvious, but you need to make sure that good design practice, consistency, making sure that you use the visuals well. I think we've all seen those bad pie charts. You actually need to get familiar with the visuals, find out what your options are, and make sure that you're matching the visual to the insight you're trying to communicate.
Great, thank you. So let's on to the actual trainings themselves. As you mentioned, you are a trainer and you deliver, I think 5, if not 6 trainings for us. 6, yeah, I thought there was a 6. I knew that. I was just slightly wrong. What could participants expect to learn in both the Excel, Power BI courses, and how will those skills, help them apply data analytics more effectively in their roles? You've already shared a fair amount about that, but I guess more specifically, how will the training help participants create meaningful reports, insights that can be shared then to have data decision making implemented across their organization? I got it. I said it.
Well, our first offering, and actually in a way, I think the most important is our Excel Intermediate.
Mhm.
This is a great program for people who are reasonably proficient. They've used Excel for a while. They can move around the space comfortably, but they're still doing everything the slow manual way.
Mhm.
Okay, this is going to show how to start capitalizing on the automation features, the tables, the functions, the pivot tables, all of that, so that you can actually start producing automated, accurate, and even quite pretty dashboards. So Excel's not ideal for the dashboarding space, but actually with a little bit of love, you can get something pretty good out of it. So it's a confidence booster, but I think also for anybody who's going to go on to do data analysis, it actually teaches the really important fundamentals. And it's quite a fun course as well. So if there was one course, if you could only do one course, that's actually the one I would recommend. For those people who have to deal with more complex problems, really messy data, big, huge data sets, and still want to work in the Excel space, that's where our advanced comes in. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the first version of Power BI was actually built into Excel.
Mhm.
So what we teach in our advanced course, we look at macros and all sorts of fun automation features, but the second half of the day is actually Power BI Mark 1 in Excel. So we get into Power Query, we get into Power Pivot, data modeling, which you mentioned earlier, and it is mind-blowing what you can actually do. So if you're thinking, I'm not sure Excel is up to, the volumes or the kind of level of detail I want to get into, trust me, it can do it. And that's what we'll look at in the advanced course. Now, for those people who are stepping into the Power BI space, we have a nice essentials course. This is designed for beginners, so people who haven't used it or just starting to dabble, and it's a nice overview. We go data to dashboard. I do want to qualify this is for people who are going to be developing reports. So this is for report developers, not necessarily end users. It is a slightly technical course, but it is a great all-rounder to get you started in your Power BI journey. And then what we've done, because different people are going to be using Power BI very differently, we've actually created a sort of little 3-stream split off from there. We have had quite a few people give us the feedback that really they don't have to do a lot with the data side. That's handled by the DBAs or whoever. They just need to build the report. So we now have a report designer course, which is focused almost entirely on the visual experience, really getting used to the tools. There's some great things in there which you can do with bookmarks and drill throughs and custom tooltips. So we really, really get into understanding all the visual features.
Mhm.
For those people who the data is more of an issue, and I think this is where we found a lot of the problems are for people. The introductory course is great if your data is all sort of neat and clean, but
Mhm.
that's not the real world. So our intermediate course is a nice sort of more general follow-on from the essentials. And here we spend a lot of time on getting the data right. We look at the profiling tools, the cleaning tools, the transformation tools, and then spend quite a lot of time on the data modeling, because coming from an Excel background, that's not something we've been taught. So it's new theory, and it's really important theory. That data model is the heart of everything that's going to happen in your Power BI report. So we have to get it right. We also then do look at a few visual things. We look at some great little features actually for automating creating visuals. And we start introducing DAX, which is the calculation language in Power BI. And we finish off with touching on row level security. So quite a nice broad coverage, but like I said, big focus on getting the data right. And finally, at the slightly sort of more advanced edge, we now have a specialized course just focusing on DAX. And DAX, it takes a little bit of getting used to. There's a bit more theory required in learning DAX than we have in traditional Excel functions. And we really get under the hood, and we're going to get people comfortable not just with the DAX language, but all the tools that can help facilitate creating good DAX and good efficient reports.
Great. I think you've done such a good job. You've answered my follow-up questions already. So thank you, Nicky. Those
Brilliant.
insights are absolutely fantastic. You're taking me back to my computer science days when which I can't remember hardly any of, which I wish I could, but I could use some of that stuff now. So for those interested in enrolling in one of our Excel or Power BI courses we just spoke about, be sure to check out the registration link provided in the comments below. It's an excellent opportunity, as we've just heard, to sharpen your skills and learn how to make data work for you. So thank you again for joining us today, Nicky, and thank you everyone for listening. We look forward to seeing you at the training, and we will see you the next time. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Charlie.